Hello, hello. What is up, everyone? It is your boy, Nerdtaku, and Baby Taku is chilling with us too. She's asleep. Um, so I really want to react to this chapter. So I'm gonna take the time while she is sleeping. So if you are new here, I go through the chapter and then afterwards I kind of give my rating and do like a little review. Um, and like during it, I'm theory crafting the whole time. Um, so if you have any questions, ask them in the chat and I will talk about them. We can have a dialogue. So I'm super excited for this. And if you're watching this after the fact, make sure to leave a comment. I respond to all the comments and we can have a dialogue there as well. So let's, let me see how close I can get here. Okay. All right. Let's jump into it. Okay. So, oh, also, and if you look right down, hold on, I'm bad at this. Right down here in the corner, you should see my logo. It's kind of transparentish, and that's me where I'm at with the chapter. So you can follow along to see what I'm talking about. So let's jump into it for real now. So we have a color spread here of what looks to be everyone eating like hot radishes or hot beets or something. I'm not quite sure. Um but you see Luffy took the tinfoil off his and they're super hot. Nami's enjoying hers. There's a little tanuki, a little raccoon, a little fox with a sword on his back. Zoro's eating his too fast as well, and it's too hot. Sanji and Otama, as well as Shinobu. And then there's also another raccoon up here. And then we have Yamato with a shirt on that says Open Something Sorrow. So very interesting. And then we have Usopp and Chopper. Oh, with another raccoon. So interesting. None of the other crew looks to be here. Oh, and on the bridge in the back, there's three dancing foxes. Um, this looks like all like the first Straw Hats, except for Yamato. Obviously, Otama and Shinobu, they are not Straw Hats, but Yamato, pseudo Straw Hat. So, let's jump right into the chapter. And it says, The Aftermath of the Battle. So we see rocks laying here, and it looks like it's raining. And he's coughing up, and it says, Did they really break the curse? So he's still alive. And they're both laying down. And you see uh Rogers down, Garp's down, and Rock's just thinking, Come on, stay alive. This island is. And then he sees three shadowy figures appearing. And it says, Damn it. It's too late. Roger, Garp, run. You can't die here. And then it says, Oh, yeah, there's one more thing I wanted to say. And we see, uh, fucking, what's his name? For Garland, we see, was her name Marley? No, Morley's the giant. Um, and then you see Sommers and it says, I wanted to say thanks for stopping me. And it's just like there's like a slash down. It looks like he just like gets his neck cut. And then you see two people running. It says, How's Rocks? Huff, huff. It says, "You're worrying about the enemy?" Gabon says. And it says, "I'm your enemy too." And it says, "Rayleigh, tell me what happened to Rox." And Rayleigh says, "He was killed." It says, "Hurry, the island's collapsing. Don't let the pirates escape." And it says, "Roger's ship is on the move." It says, "Fire. This event would leave no mark on the pages of history." Okay, so it wasn't destroyed um by an ancient weapon. It just got completely decimated to the point where it couldn't hold. Crazy. Crazy stuff, honestly. Like the fact that all of this took place and they ended up saving uh Garp's life. It says the crumbling island was swallowed by the waves and consumed by the fog, like curtains closing on a grand stage. It says that was the essence of the God Valley incident. And then you see Roger say, "Let's go, full speed ahead." Yeah, ha, ha, ha. And it says, the silence in the incident's wake lasted only a moment before a massive bolt of lightning split the heavens. And with that, the curtains rose for new tales to unfold. Hmm, interesting. And then we flash to Roger's ship and it says, "Still, hold it in. Just wait till Roger's up." It says, "Come on, Captain, I'm dying to open up the treasure chests." And it's like, "Huh?" It says, "Roger." And everyone's like, "Roger." And it says, "Sorry to worry you guys." It says, "Yeah, yeah, we're thrilled. More importantly, check it out. Don't you care about me at all?" Is that Garp? And it says, "Shacky safe and sound." And then you see Rayleigh in the hearts. And it says, "And we scored a ton of treasure to boot." This dude's got wings. It says, "What a great haul." And you hear, "Wah." And he's like, "Huh? Goo. Ah." And it says, "What the?" It's coming from that chest. And it says, "There's something in there. Open it carefully." And they click and they look down and so they're like, "Huh? A baby?" And it's like, "Yeah, ha, ha, ha." And then you see Rocks Pirates wiped out. And it says, predictably, news coverage was falsified. Only one aspect of the story was highlighted: the heroism of Garp. And it says here that the Rocks Pirates have been vanquished. And everyone shouts, "Rox is dead." And someone says, "I knew it. Vice Admiral Garp is the strongest." And someone says, "Garp, Garp, he's a hero." And it says Grand Line Navy HQ. And you just see Garp be like, "What the hell is this article?" And he said, and they're like, "Vice Admiral Garp." And it says, "I can't wait to get my hands on that Morgan's fella." And it says, "Relax, Garp. He only wrote that stuff because the government paid him off." Okay, so let's talk about this a little bit. Kind of crazy that all this took place. And I wonder if Rayleigh and Gabon like took Garp over to the Marine ships or if they um like patched him up and then sent him on his way. Very interesting. And just like Garp to be mad about it. Sengoku says the world government and the Marines are massive organizations. If you count the member nation armies, we're talking about tens of millions of soldiers worldwide. It's impossible to account for everyone's actions and motivations. And Garp's like, so if the top brass ever do strike me as insane, it says I'd simply turn a blind eye to it. And it says, come again? And he starts fighting him and says, it's just like I said, you're just another promotion chasing fool. And he said, shut up. What good can you do barking from the bottom of the cliff? And then it says, hey, you two. And Garp says, if you ever stray and get corrupt, I'll kill you myself. And Sengoku says, how reassuring. I guess that's what friends are for. But what about you, Garp? And Sengoku says, so you're not quitting then, Garp? And Garp says, idiot. There are still things at the bottom of the cliff that need a guard dog. Um, this is this is really disappointing for Sengoku and Sengoku's character, in my opinion. Not a fan. And then it says, Elbaf, New World. And we just hear, wah, wah. And it says, you again. I ain't letting you on my ship. And it says, how many times do I gotta tell you, Pipsqueak? You think I want a brat on my crew? And he's like crying and says, what is this? The guy I want ain't giving me the time of day, but his snot-nosed brat won't leave me alone. And Loki says, hey, Rox, I think you're Nika. Oh, here we go. And he's like, Nika? It's like the warrior of liberation who will destroy the world while laughing. And he's like, destroy it? I'm aiming to be the king of the world. Besides, if anyone's got that sort of power, it's Harold. And he says, huh? Interesting. I wonder how they got the news that Rox had gotten killed. I wonder if Harold brought that news back. Interesting. And Rox says, listen up, Loki. Somewhere out there, the Galera The Galera are slumbering. They're an outrageous band of ravagers, and the only one who can put them back into play is your pops. And he says, I'm going to continue to rally the rogues of the world. So just imagine if Harold and I teamed up, who could possibly stop us then? Loki says, wow, that's awesome. And he says, so why aren't you and Pop's allies already? And he said, because of love. And he says, but I'm gonna come back again and again. I don't care if it takes 100 or 200 meetings. And he's like, flash forward, he's looking at the newspaper. And he's just like, wow. And it says, on a certain island, it says, it's a vicious assault. King Harold of Elbaf is. And it says, have any civilians been harmed? And it says, no. It says, he attacked another giant, some thug. It's quite a brutal scene. And someone's like, sob. And he's beating someone up, and he says, you still don't get it. And the giant's like, I understand, really. I'm sorry. I'll never steal from humans again. And he says, you don't get it. None of you do. And he just like punches down. And he says, huge trash heaps like you are responsible for the terrors in our race's history. And that's why we can't be trusted. We only desire to peacefully engage with the world now, but they can't trust that. And he's just beating this dude the fuck up. And he says, Your Highness, he's already out cold. And he says, I didn't want to jeopardize Elbaf's chances of joining the world government. That was my only reason for not helping him. And he's just crying. And it says, I forsook my closest friend as he begged me for aid, and I left him to die. And Rock says, But it doesn't look like luck's on my side anymore, Harold. Lend me a hand. So he's not upset at this dude per se. He's more or less upset with himself and he's lashing out. And Harold's like, There's no turning back now. I will never, ever forgive a giant who does evil. And all the people are like, Huh? And it says, Giant King loses it. And then it says Navy HQ, underground detention cell. And he like taps on it and the dragon's like, Dad, I'm gonna quit the Marines. And he says, K. And Dragon says, And you? I despise you. And he says, K. And he throws the fucking key at him to get him out. Oh my god. Garp is such a piece of shit, dude. Holy fuck. Like that's the type of response you have. Your kid is literally being like, I'm gonna quit the Marines because this is fucking bullshit. Like you saw exactly what happened there. And all of a sudden, Harold comes back and he says, I've made my mind. I've made up my mind, Ida. Elder Yarul, I don't care about appearances anymore. Haradine, Loki, you are both my precious sons. I want you to get along when I'm gone. And it says, and do what you can to support Elbaf. And then it says Marineford Navy HQ. And someone says, that ship's from Elbaf. And they're like, what? And the Marines are like, my apologies, King Harold, but my superiors have ordered me to not let you land. And he goes there and it says, high ranking Marines and leaders of the world government, I ask that you please hear me out. And he grabs his horns and rips them out. And all the Marines are like, ah. And then he says, allow me to atone for the sins of the past 1,000 years. I apologize for every wrong the giant race has committed. The children of Elbaf are being raised to live without harming others, so that one day they may walk hand in hand with humanity. I do all this to prove our unwavering commitment to peace. And it says, I'll do whatever it takes to atone for our sins, even if it means becoming a slave. And then you just see Emu's eyes. And it says, Is there light at the end of this tunnel? Oh, man. Damn. Uh, What a what a thing. Like finding out that God Valley ended like this sucks because you hate to see it, right? You hate to see that Rocks got, beat basically by Garp and Roger, which is great. And he went back to normal And there's even a possibility he could have been saved. And you just have Garling and the Holy Knights come over and kill him. But they don't kill Roger or Garp. But the only thing that we see is just the flash of him getting killed. And then you see Rayleigh and Gabon taking Roger and Garp back. I don't know. Kind of crazy. Um, then all of the stuff that happens after, we find Shanks. Garp is pissed off about this stuff, and Sengoku's a bum. Loki finding out and being so distraught about it, and even um, Loki telling Rox that he's Nika. Um, and then Rox telling Loki like what could have been, and then Harold's response to it. I really hate this Dragon Garp scene. Fucking hate it. Garp is such a punk. Just crazy. And I hate this for Harold. I hate this for Harold so much. Him saying, even if it means becoming a slave, like, you don't know what that means. Oh, man. This was a good chapter. It wasn't like obviously like last chapter was like the peak of God Valley, but I think that there's still some crazy shit to come. But we've definitely gotten past God Valley. And now we're close to the Loki incident. The craziest thing is we don't have many more chapters. It doesn't say break week, so I guess that means we're gonna get one next week. And then we're already in December, which means I feel like we're only gonna get probably like four more chapters this year, maybe. And that means that uh we are basically in a position um to um see that the end of Harold's flashback, well, Harold, Loki, and Rox's flashback ends at the new year, and finally we get back to the action starting January. Very interesting. Let's read some of these comments. This guy says, Emu, slave, you say? You've piqued my interest. That's funny. Someone just put like a like oh my god reaction. It says, wait, what? No, rocks. And it says Shacky safe and sound with like the hearts. It says, Harold, my man, those are the people who just killed your best friend. Yeah, like why would you try and bend the knee to someone who just literally fucking killed your bud? Someone said frauding at it again. Harold, you don't need to go that far. And then someone said, no wonder Loki killed him. Someone says, choke on my smoke. Okay. Was Rox under the curse when he was killed? No, doesn't seem like it. Government is shit, either real life or fiction. Big facts. Um, no, this was a really good chapter. Oh, what? Oh my goodness, someone is waking up. She heard peak. Um, no, this chapter was really good. It was definitely a change of pace for the last few chapters because like the last few chapters were all crazy. Okay, hold on. Let me adjust you. You're okay. Um, so definitely a huge change in pace, for like the action driven, last few chapters. And but overall, I mean, it was a pretty good chapter. It was definitely like a logical conclusion, but Mm. the God's Knights killing him sucked. This just makes me go, if all of this island like collapsed onto it, like into the water, I wonder if it got hit by like a knocked up stream or something like that, and it resulted in the pieces of the island getting shot everywhere, and some of them ending up in the Florian Triangle. And that's where we got Thriller Bark from. So, very interesting. Very interesting. Um, like all the major players like leaving, like you see Big Mom, you see Whitebeard, you see, obviously Roger, Garp, Dragon, Hido, um, and then Kuma, Ivankov, Shanks, Ginny, and then Teach and Eris. Very interesting. But yeah, there was a lot of like loose ends that got kind of tied up, and I'm glad that we're getting back into this Harold flashback. Again, I hate this. I hate Garp and Dragon's interaction here. Him tapping on it and Dragon just being like, "Dad, I'm gonna quit the Marines," and he's just like, "K," and he said, "And you, I despise you." And Garp says K and throws him the key. Like, dude, what are we doing? Just such fucking terrible father, a terrible grandfather, and then on top of that, a shit person. Um, I do like that Harold finally was just like, I don't care about appearances anymore. Loki and Haradine, you're both my precious sons. I want you to get along while I'm gone. So that was cool to see. But then he turned around and doubled down on being a dipshit and then went and basically turned himself into the world government. That's crazy. That's crazy. So I don't know what he was thinking there. Yeah. I don't know either, right? Um um but yeah, overall, I think this was a good chapter. It wasn't a great chapter, but it was good. I would say that this chapter is probably in like the 7.5. There was some good things that tied up loose ends, but overall, it was just an okay chapter. It wasn't like the greatest chapter. It was just good, you know. Oda rarely comes out with a chapter that I feel like is below a 5, like it all has meaning and progresses the story in meaningful ways. And that's truly what I look for. So, yeah, definitely a good chapter, but not great. Just because again, I hate the Garp stuff, and it's tragic because you see what's about to happen. Harold is basically falling into a place because Emu even said to Rox, he said, a foolish king like this only that his will is going to be upon doesn't come around this often. So basically, he's falling after the world government killed his best friend. He's falling into the trap and basically saying, "Well, why don't you kill me too? Because I'm stupid and I'm going into um, your stuff." So, anyway, that's my thoughts on it. Let me know what you think in the comments. Um, Good chapter, not great. sucks to see that things are going to be going down the way that they are. I feel like we're going to see Harold become a god knight, and it's going to be shitty. But I am interested to see where this goes because we're probably going to get a flash forward in time next chapter, and we're going to see Harold as a God's Knight, and he's going to be meeting Shanks for the first time in Marijois, and then he's going to head back from there. And after that, that's when he gets Dami Reversi basically, and gets killed by Loki. So very interesting stuff. So again, let me know what your thoughts are in the comments. I love hearing, conversation about One Piece. I love talking One Piece, and I think One Piece is better as a conversation. So please have that conversation with me. Let me know your thoughts. Um, but this little girl's getting fussy, and I'm gonna go take care of her. Yeah. So I will see you guys next week when the next chapter drops, and we can talk about it all over again. All right. See you guys next time. You want to say goodbye? Okay. Say bye. Say Jana.